Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss the same question that we have discussed previously, and that is the last question of use of language task. In use of language task, we have 5 questions A to E, and this one is the last question, and to me this is the most important also because it has 3 marks. So the question basically is, we have discussed it earlier. We discussed the question with the help of the mark scheme, but now today I'm going to give you the written answers. I thought that it might be a bit difficult for you just to form or just to make your own answers. So the better idea is that I should give you written answers. So when you write your own answers or when you are going to do this in your paper, you have this kind of pattern in your mind, and you could see that what kind of answer is expected from you. Now look at this first example that is given here. Identify one example from the below of how the writer uses language effectively to convey Mo's feelings after Mo has lost sight of the ground. We have discussed this earlier, and you have seen this answer also. So basically, when we read the text or when we see the text, the first and most important thing is that we should choose one such example that we feel easy about that, and we think that we can. That is a kind of a thing that is our experience as well, and we can explain that well. And how you will know that? That first of all, you'll have to look for the words inside that example. So here we have chosen the example lace work of branches glowed. So the most important word here is lace work. How you are going to explain this lace work, or after that if you are explaining glowed also, how you are going to give the example of these two words. So the this gives the impression of delicate fragile twigs and branches at the top, letting the bright sunlight that is related to glow. Bright sunlight through the gaps, the branches make beautiful patterns. Lace work is beautiful patterns. We had discussed this earlier, so I'm moving to the next one. And mostly the text that I'm using here, they are the text that you are familiar with, or you have attempted them in one of your papers or in class or somewhere. But you have attempted these questions, so you can just compare how did you do that and how I have written the answer. And when you are going to attempt your paper, you must go for the same kind of pattern when you write the explanation of the example. And when you choose the example, do not write a very long example. Now in this one, identify one example from the text below of how the writer uses language effectively to convey how Hortense behaves in front of the writer's family. So one 4-5 word line paragraph is given, and I have chosen the example that I felt that it is a kind of a good example and I can explain it well. Hortense decided that the table was a four-legged enemy. Though in this example, the most important word for me is enemy, and another word is four-legged. So we know that table is not a human being, table is not a living thing. So this animal is considering this table his enemy. So for me, important words while explaining, I'm going to pay attention to four-legged and enemy. So the explanation can be, this gives the impression that Hortense behaves wildly and foolishly, as if he sees the table as a threat. So it's an enemy, so he sees it as a threat. It suggests that he acts on instinct. So he thinks that if an animal, what is the instinct of the animals? That when they see animals in front of them, they just tend to attack them. So it suggests that he acts on instinct, charging at the table like considering it his enemy. The idea of the table being an enemy adds humor and shows how disruptive and chaotic his behavior is in front of the writer's family. So this is the example that we have taken from this one. Now second one, another one. We have discussed this, so I am not going to take long with this also, because when we were doing this in the previous video, I discussed this in detail. So the question here, the example here is I experienced wildly. So when I'll explain this word, this phrase, the most important word in this is the word wild. What kind of experience you will have, that is wild. So the writer is the candidate is explaining it like this: the writer felt free like an animal in the wild, and he could do anything without being trapped. So after everything that he's writing after that, that is related to being free or being in the wild, or where you have freedom of doing anything. Nobody is going to trap you, nobody is going to stop you. So you have to pay special attention to the words in the example that we have chosen, and then you will base your explanation on those words. Look at this now. Identify one example of how the writer uses language effectively to describe Vera in the extract from the text. So this one extract is given, and the most attractive example or interesting example that I could find was Princess Vera. I chose that example, I have written it here, and then I have explained it. So how am I going to explain it? This gives the, so when the word princess is written there, and secondly you can see that the writer has written the word princess with capital P. Vera is fine, that because whenever we write a name, there is a proper noun, we start it with a capital letter. But the princess is not a capital noun, but he is writing it with capital T, so that is also something here. So I have chosen the example. This gives the impression that Vera is powerful, majestic and commanding respect like royalty, or like a king or a queen or princess. The word princess suggests that she is proud and dignified, and the capitalization adds to her importance. He has written the word princess with capital P, that tells us that this is more important. It is adding importance to this. So you are going to see the words, you are going to analyze them, and then you are going to write them, and it is all about explaining the words. It shows how her true strength and presence are revealed once she is free from the cage, making her seen larger and more impressive. Now, I can safely say that if I just write this, that this gives the impression of Vera is powerful, majestic, and commanding, respect like royalty, then that's done. After that, if I just write this, it shows how her true strength, presence are revealed once she is free from the cage, making her seen larger and more impressive. So that's enough. We basically are going to pay attention to the word princess, how it has been used, and what is the connotation of word princess. If a person behaves like a prince, if a girl behaves like a princess, so what is that? What is the impression of being a princess? So you are going to give all attention to that, and then explain this according to this word. Another one. Identify one example of how the writer uses language effectively to convey Matt's feelings in this extract from the text. So I chose this example: until we floated onto the glassy waters. In this, there are two important words, and I'm going to explain them while writing the impression. One word is floated, and the other word is glassy. So when I will explain, I will try to give a complete explanation of these two words. So when you are floating on water, even during swimming, when a person floats, basically it shows relaxation and calm behavior. Basically you are in peace. So I'm writing here that this gives the impression that Matt feels calm, relaxed, and at peace. It suggests gentle, effortless movement. So floating is a kind of a movement when you don't move your hands or when you don't move your body, but you are just floating. You are lying there and you are moving yourself. You are not making an effort. So it suggests, because of the word float, it suggests gentle, effortless movement while creating an image of stillness and beauty of the sea. The sea water is reflecting sunlight, making its surface shiny. So I thought that instead of word glassy, I should go with shiny. So avoid using the same word in the explanation. It shows that Matt is enjoying the experience. So this is what we are going to do with the explanation of any given example. Another one. Now here I chose two examples so to make you all very clear that how you are going to write this example and explanation question. This is the question that I've taken from your mocks, and first example I have written that I have chosen, and the second example is the as far as I could recall, I think there were more than 20 or I think almost half of the class chose this example, the second example, and hardly there was one odd student that came with the correct answer. That's why I thought that because you had written the answer, I should explain it for you. So, for the first example, that is from Mr. Lachman's photography skills and all that, the text that you did in your mocks. First example that I've chosen, followed by a steady muffled roar of anger and distress. Explanation is, so I'm going to pay attention to word anger, distress, roar, or maybe muffle also. So this gives the impression that the situation has become intense and emotional. So word roar is indicating that situation is, and anger, distress, all three words, they explain, they tell us that the situation has become intense and emotional. It suggests a buildup of powerful feelings of depression. When it is distress, it shows that the person in the text is in some kind of distress, in some kind of depression. It suggests a buildup of powerful feelings of depression, as though the development process has triggered frustration and sadness. But the emotions are partly suppressed, and that is the word muffled now. As partly suppressed, that is an indication of helplessness. So he is angry, he is furious, he is distressed, but his roar, these sounds are muffled. That shows that he is helpless. It shows his helplessness. He cannot do anything, he can't help it. So this is the explanation of these words. So when you are going to explain any example, you are going to find few words and you will explain them according to. Now second example, the mostly students from your class did in mocks. The basins clanged against each other. So here the most important word is clanged for me. Clang is a sound of is a kind of a sound when two metallic things, when they hit each other, when they crash into each other, they produce that kind of sound. So clanged is important, and basin, that utensil that was used there, but the most important word here is clanged. This gives the impression of sudden disruption and noise. So the word clang is showing that it is the kind of a disruption and noise. A loud metallic crashing sound creates a sense of chaos and confusion. It shows that something has gone wrong during the photo development process, turning what should be a calm task on into a mess. So this clanging of the basins, clanging of the utensils, it shows that a certain process that demanded peace, that demanded a calm environment, it has ended in a complete mess. Pause the video here or take screenshot and read these answers and try to write your own answer. And how you are going to do it, you are going to pay attention to certain words in the chosen example and choose the example that you are very confident about, that I can do it well. Now just a few take home ideas here about question 2e. Select the question to select the example carefully, ensuring it is not over long, and quote it directly. Again, I'm telling you, you are going to copy the example from the text. Do not write the example in your own words. You won't get marks for that. Copy the example from the text. Got it? Quote it directly means write it, copy it directly. Consider the meaning of a word before going on to consider what it suggests and its effect. Consider first, spot the word in the example, which word it's the most important word in that example. Ask yourself what is the meaning of that word. Once you are clear about the meaning of that word, after that think that what can be the connotation. Connotation means that if the word princess is written somewhere, that shows that someone is related to a king or queen or a palace. So these are connotations that is a royalty. If a word like clang is written there, so that the connotation is noise and sound of chaos. So first spot the word, choose it. After that, ask yourself the meaning and then go for effect. What kind of effect is creating? Zoom in on individual words within a quotation or extract rather than making journal comments. Do not go for that you are going to write, explain the whole example the way it is written there. Go for words inside that example that can be explained properly. Think of the associations, connotations, pictures, and feelings created by individual words. Like in this example, see when we are saying the basins clanged. So just you can just picture this in your mind that when two basins are crashing into each other, they are producing a kind of a sound. We all are familiar with this kind of a sound. So you should go for such associations, such pictures. You can picture this in your mind also, and such connotations created by individual words. Use your own words to explain the effect. That means example is a copy, whereas explanation is in your own words. Do not copy words from the example. Do not copy words from the example in your explanation. Write it in your own words. If a comparison is made, think about the similarities and about the connects, what connects the two things. Practice by looking at the effect of language in different texts such as advertisements and song lyrics. So here you can you can stop it here, and the same example you can write yourself. This will help you in your final paper. That's all for today. I think it is going to be helpful for you, and inshallah in the next video I'll try to write the answers or try to do a video on the impression question with the sample answers. Okay, Allah Hafiz.